Alexander is a big book, and although it's similar in style to biographies like Caesar, Antony and Cleopatra, or Augustus, for me it's moving a little bit earlier in time, and it's going much further, first of all into the Hellenistic world and then further east beyond that. I've written a little bit about the Hellenic world before, particularly in Antony and Cleopatra, because obviously Cleopatra was a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, this family set up by one of the commanders of Alexander the Great in the breakup of his empire after Alexander's premature death. So I've looked a little bit at that, and you cannot study ancient history without being deeply aware of Greek language and culture, because even if you focus on the Romans were obsessed with that past, obsessed with that culture, had this deep, rather confused sense, partly of inferiority, partly of superiority, in that on the one hand the Greeks seemed smarter, cleverer, more sophisticated, more talented than they were. On the other hand, the Romans had conquered them. But this is a story of Macedonia, and obviously it's a story of the Greek world and the Greek language. But Macedonia tends to be neglected because up until Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great, it wasn't very important. This is a minor kingdom to the north of Greece proper, but Macedonia is on the fringes of that. One of the early Macedonian kings is known as the Philhellene, the lover of Greece, of things Greek, which rather suggests, just in the fact that that's the nickname you get, that you are not automatically considered to be a Greek in the first place. In another case, a king has to apply for admission to participate in the Olympic Games and justify his qualification by saying, well, my ancestors, the ancestors of the Argead royal family, were exiles from the southern city of Argos, that very definitely is Greek, and they let him in. And by the time of Philip, on the whole, Macedonia is seen as mostly Greek, but probably a lot of people in the south would still see them as rather rustic, rather primitive, rather barbaric almost. They're on the fringes. They're not quite as bad, as unsophisticated and as scary as the Thracians and the Illyrians and others beyond that, but they're still not quite like us. You have to be a little bit careful with this, because the whole sense of civic identity with the city-states means that plenty of citizens considered themselves to be special, and everybody else from every other community, no matter how large or small, wasn't quite the thing, wasn't quite a proper civilized human being. But obviously the differences are much larger. We remember the Olympic Games, but that's part of this cycle of pan-Hellenic festivals where Greek communities come together every year to participate and to compete. Competition is fundamental to Greek society, Greek identity.